Welcome to my new channel. This is Budget Home Gym Co-op because I'm Coop and this is the co-op, Coop from the co-op. This channel's entire goal is to help you build a home gym as cheaply as possible. We review budget-ended equipment constantly over on Garage Gym Reviews. You have asked me, Coop, can you review more budget-ended equipment? I only have so many videos I can make on that channel, so now we created an entirely new channel, and my entire goal is to help you build a home gym in this economy as cheaply as possible, which is kind of difficult, but I think we can do it. So I highly recommend you subscribe because we have some really sweet videos forthcoming to help you build your home gym on a budget. But today I want to talk about budget home gym mistakes I see made constantly. I've made mistake videos in the past about building a home gym over on our other channel, Garage Gym Reviews, but today is specifically for those of you that are trying to build one as cheaply as possible. One thing I recognize is a lot of people today, as it has been, have been trying to build a home gym to save money, as they should. It is a way that you can save money. It's also a way you can spend a whole lot of freaking money. And I will say, it is in some way a Trojan horse to spending a lot of money because you get in just thinking, I'm just gonna get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then I'll be done. Here's the reality, your home gym's never finished. But I will say, there is more gym equipment available today at what I would consider more budget-ended prices than there was certainly 10 years ago when I first started reviewing equipment. And the first mistake that I see often when building a budget home gym is kind of a sad one, and that is buying used equipment. The reality is when you're building a home gym, especially on a budget, you should not overlook these small beginnings of used gym equipment. Honestly, I buy used gym equipment still constantly. Partly is because I'm looking for machines that are hard to find and really expensive, long lead times, all that sort of thing. But also, there's a lot of gym equipment that truthfully just lasts forever. You're dealing with steel that's welded, has oftentimes 12 gauge, 13 gauge, 14 gauge. Sometimes when you spend more, 11 gauge, you can buy gym equipment for like less than half the cost. Especially when you're looking at home gym equipment, this is what you have to recognize. Most of that equipment was used by one person. And a lot of times the reason they're selling it is because they didn't freaking use the thing. So you're practically buying something that's new, and the warranties on this equipment really never get used because you never have issues with something like a squat rack or a barbell or weight plates. I mean, think about it. You're literally just buying a slab of iron with a weight plate. If you're buying iron weight plates, like, it's not really going to degrade over time. So definitely don't overlook used gym equipment. One thing I would look at that I use all the time is I buy stuff countrywide, and I use a site called searchtempest.com. I have no relation to the site. I use it all the time. I go on there, I type in my zip code, I type the keyword I'm looking for, and then I'll search the entire country. And then what I do is I try to find shippers that can pick up the equipment. So you can get really good equipment for really cheap. If you're building a budget home gym, buying used equipment is killer. The next one I see, and unfortunately I see this with a lot of my friends. I have a lot of buddies that have started home gyms, and they always come to me, Coop, I'm looking to start a home gym. What do you think about this piece? And really it's a veiled request for a piece of equipment because they know I probably got it and I'll just give it to them. But what often happens is they spend all of their time researching the equipment, thinking about the equipment, looking for deals on the equipment, and not spending any time figuring out how they're actually going to use it. Like spending all the money on the equipment, but not thinking any about programming. The goal for building a budget home gym is to get maximal functionality for as cheap as you freaking can. And so because of that, you need to consider what you can do with the equipment and how you're going to use it. Don't spend all your time researching. Like, I want you to watch this channel, obviously. I benefit from it. But I don't really benefit from it long term if you don't actually use the equipment. I want you to use the equipment and actually enjoy it, get stronger, get faster, get bigger. All those gains I want you to have. And I think you can have them on a budget, but spend time thinking about the programming. So the programming I use is not a budget. I wouldn't recommend this for you guys on a budget, but it's Renaissance Periodization from Mike Israetel. It's amazing. But if you'd like me to do some reviews on more budget-ended apps for programming, let me know in the comments and I'll start working on it. But that's the one I use. But there's so many different you can use. I would just say create a logbook, consider your training, and have a plan before you go into the gym. You'll use it and love it much long term. Now, another mistake I see all the time, and this isn't just in home gyms, but this is like any consumer product. You see this in the grocery store. It's like buying brand name and only considering brand name. Here's why brand name is nice, is you have that mindset of buy once, cry once. I love that mindset, but you also have to factor in like, well, what other things do you need to buy in your life? You know, like, do you need to put food on the table? And will buying this squat rack prevent you from putting food on the table? Because the reality is, if I could choose somebody that's trying to get stronger and bigger to spend more money on food or spend more money on a squat rack, it would probably be spend more money on food, because those nutrition gains are probably going to produce better results for your life in general than a squat rack that is 11 gauge steel versus 14 gauge steel. Like, let's just be honest. So instead of just chasing brand names, which there is the value of resale value, so you have to factor that in, but instead of just chasing the brand names, go after the function. What can this thing do? And do I need the commercially rated, really expensive squat rack, or can I get away with something that's cheaper and really does pretty much the same thing? Because most of the squat racks that are made today and marketed are based on the previous generation of squat racks, which were designed for commercial use. They were designed to be used in a gym, and then everybody likes that stability, that quality, that durability, and so they're like, I want to use this in my home gym, and I can afford it. If you can't afford it, you can get a similar function from a thinner walled squat rack or a cheaper bench or a cheaper machine, all that sort of thing. So focus on the function, not the brand name. Then, if you are building a gym for strength, just going after the cheapest plates without considering how wide the plate is or the dimensions of the plate at large can be extremely frustrating. Here's why. The IPF standard or the IWF standard for weight plates is 450 millimeters. When you're buying cheap weight plates, this happens a lot, where the diameter is actually smaller than that diameter. You're going to be deadlifting from a deficit, or if they're larger, you're going to be deadlifting higher up than you normally would. And if you're training for a strength sport, not a good idea. But I think a bigger problem is buying plates without considering the width of the plate, going with a cheap bumper plate that's really wide, and you're using it on all your machines, you're using it on your plate-loaded machines, you're using it on your barbell, and suddenly you get them in, you put them on the plate sleeve and realize, oh crap, these are super wide, like double the width of an iron plate, and therefore I can't lift the amount of weight that I actually need to lift. Honestly, a better option may be iron plates, although they're more expensive today than bumper plates. They're not vastly more expensive, and they're going to be thinner, which means you can fit more on them, and they'll also last longer. So I'd consider that. Next is spending a higher percentage of money on non-essentials versus your essentials. If you haven't heard this principle, let me introduce you to it. It's called the Pareto principle. The idea is basically 80% of results come from 20% of the output or 20% of the activity, but it also applies in all different areas. One of those areas is your purchases. So you should be spending about 80% of your money on the actual essentials for your gym, like squat racks, the barbells, the plates, the benches, dumbbells, that sort of thing, and only 20% or less on stuff that is more specialty items. Now, here's the reality. If you watch our other channel, Garage Gym Reviews, you're gonna see a lot of sexy stuff. You're gonna see a lot of stuff that's really fun, really cool. You're gonna want them. The one that always comes to mind for me is jammer arms. It's wow, those are so cool. The engineering behind them, the way they move up and down on the rack, the way they look, some of the movements you can do with them, they're just really cool. The reality is, you shouldn't be spending much money on those. You should be spending your money on the basics. Budget your money towards the things that you're most often gonna use. And I see this mistake all the time where people will be like, I want a home gym, so I'll get a squat rack and I'll spend, on a cheap squat rack, but then they're like, this attachment, it looks amazing, it's incredible. And they add it to the rack and it's the attachment costs more than the freaking rack. Whenever you see somebody driving a car where the rims cost more than the car, it's what are you doing? You're wasting money. So same thing for a home gym. Another one, buying first gen products, okay? And we're seeing a lot of first-gen budget-ended pieces. We've got a lot of companies coming into the space, Major Fitness, McCullough, GMWD, and others that are on the more budget-ended of equipment. And these are newer companies, often imported companies, and they're just volume, volume, volume. So they're let's throw something out with a rendering on the internet It's not an actual piece of equipment yet, and let's sell it, and we don't have any feedback or user feedback, and maybe them themselves don't work out, and it looks cool online, you get it in, it's like, man, this thing sucks. So I would avoid generally first-gen products. In fact, I reviewed a piece the other day that's going to be a video on this channel, a GMWD press machine. It's the 7th version machine, V7, which means they had to go through 6 iterations before they got one that was kind of good, and I still had feedback on it. It's like, yeah, you need to fix this. So it's like, don't buy version 1 of the cheaper ended equipment. Wait for things that are more time tested before you spend your hard-earned money. Which brings me to my next one, spending less on each item so you can get more items. The goal of a home gym is not to be a collector. Now, I know a lot of people probably think I'm a collector because some of my tours have just a crazy amount of stuff. The reality is I'm not really a collector. I constantly get things and get rid of them. Like literally, I just bought like 8 different machines like 6 months or a year ago over time, and they're now all gone out of my gym. If I was a collector, I'd just keep them, but I'm not a collector. I don't really care that much about the long-term thought of the thing. I just want I want to try different stuff because I review it for a living. I want to compare it to other stuff, and I want to be able to get the best function and versatility in my gym. So I'm constantly doing that game, but I'm not just hoarding stuff. And there are a lot of home gym owners, the goal is to hoard, it's to collect. And if you're into actual collecting, cool. Again, you can actually make money doing that. I know a lot of people that buy and sell weight plates, vintage weight plates. That can be a money maker. But if you're not into that, don't think I need 50 cable attachments. Just get the ones that work, okay? You'll find, and I've had every cable attachment in the world. I use 3 to 4 cable attachments, and that's pretty much it. I'll throw in other ones every once in a while, but generally it's you find your staples. So don't think you just need to spend a crazy amount of money across all these different items. Instead, buy nicer things, but fewer of them. It will be better for you long term. Trust me, I've made the mistake. And another mistake is when you're buying something, not waiting for the sales and not being absolute vigilant in buying things. Now, I will say, and I've been accused of using coupons often. There's many stories that people could tell of me just kind of going ridiculous on saving $1. I have no problem doing that. In fact, yeah, Sam's looking at me right now. In fact, I'm buying a new house right now, and I've done, I think, 9 applications for mortgages. And it's because I'm just you'll give me 0.25% less. You'll give me, 100% less. I don't care. I've got basically 30 days here till I get down to the line. I've got to pick. Market's fluctuating all the time. I'm going to use you off of you, and I'm going to play that game. I have no problem doing that. The bigger the expenses to your overall net worth, the more vigilant you should be. Few things I use often when I'm making purchases. One is I use coupon codes. There are very few purchases I make that don't have a coupon code. 2, I'm constantly looking for what prices from different retailers. 3, I use coupon sites. So I use cashbackmonitor.com. Basically lists all the coupon sites or all the cashback sites, so I can go through there. I use that every time, cashbackmonitor.com. And then I also use an app called shop.app. It's basically Shopify's marketplace. Seems like a competitor in some way to Amazon, but most of these sites are using Shopify. Most of the gym equipment sites are using Shopify. This is a place that you can go to, and they give deals constantly. I've seen PRX on there. I've seen Bells of Steel on there. I've seen others, and it's just another way to save money. So I would just be vigilant. And then I would look for sales times. So obviously Black Friday is a huge one. I would definitely wait for Black Friday if you're getting close to Black Friday. But then there's others that companies are doing now too, like President's Sale, Memorial Day sales. You're seeing it more and more. Sales are happening. So I would look for those too. And then also older gym equipment sales. You'll see companies selling last year's treadmill model or something like that. Just last year, it doesn't matter. Get last year's model. It's not like it's a worse model. It's just going to have some less features. If you're on a budget, that's the way to go. And then lastly, absolutely have to avoid this, and that is buying locked-in ecosystem equipment. I'm thinking squat racks, basically a company that's using odd sizing on their tubing, using odd sizing on their holes, using weird placement on their holes. Don't do that, okay? Because then you're forced into buying their ecosystem of equipment and attachments. And really, there isn't one company in the world yet that I can say you really want to go into their ecosystem because everything they make is better than everybody else. No, you want to buy modular still. There may be a someday where a company is like that, but still, you want to buy something that you can take from this company because they have this sale and it's better than this attachment, and you can add it to your system. Don't buy into locked-in ecosystems if you're on a budget. Okay, those are 10 biggest budget home gym mistakes I'm seeing to help you avoid them. Again, let me know any mistakes that you've seen in your budget home gym journey. Also, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of Budget Gym Co-op? What do you want to see in this channel? What kind of videos do you want to see? And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe because we're going to go for a ride. A cheap ride, but it's going to be a ride. This has been Coop from the Co-op, Budget Gym Co-op. We'll see you next time. Out.